What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today we'll be going over the Thursday game and then talking about different players' injury status, COVID situations around the league. But we'll get on to that in a second. But first, of course, have to start things off as usual. Saturday, Monday's stat was among the top 10 running backs in half PPR scoring through Sunday. Only one did so for the running back position. Don't know if I mentioned that. Without scoring a touchdown answer. Donta Foreman, FS Primetime 25, first get that right on YouTube. At NoBrimKim, first get that right on Twitter. Today's stat. Over the last 6 weeks, the top scoring defense in points per game is the Dallas Cowboys, who ranks second. What defense? All right, so Thursday game, going to be 49ers at the Titans. This game has a relatively average 46.5 point total. 49ers up to 3.5 point road favorites. For the 49ers, Jimmy G is a solid streaming option this week. I talked about him in the free agency video. He's someone you can add. I would say, though, one, it's unlikely you have to go there if you're in the semifinals. But two, if you are choosing to go there, just understand different players have different combinations of like floor and ceiling. Some players have a massive ceiling, but a floor of like 2 points. Jimmy G is very even his production. He is probably, as I've said the past like few weeks, he's been a streaming option at all times, but he's probably going to get you like in the mid-teens. That is his most likely range, and he is more likely to fall in that range than a lot of other quarterbacks. That's good because he's not going to go out there and post, 2 fantasy points. Like someone like Justin Fields could literally go out there and post 2 fantasy points, or like Trevor Lawrence too. But he's also probably not going to win you the week. So if you are looking for someone like that it's like, hey, I just want some points. I think I'm going to win this matchup. I don't need a ceiling of 30 points. And I don't want my streaming quarterback just crater my lineup. Jimmy G is a solid option, especially we have Elijah Mitchell ruled out again right before I'm recording this. And so that's a positive for Jimmy Garoppolo. Makes them a little bit more likely to not go extremely run heavy. They'll still run it, but they were more likely to run heavy if Mitchell were back. So good option, high floor. Just understand he's not going to win you the week. And so if you need that, you're projected to lose by 20, you need a spike week from your quarterback. He's probably not going to have that, especially because he can't run. So understand that there are other options you can have that have a little bit more upside. Moving on to some other positions, like I said, Mitchell's going to be out. So I think, again, you can play Jeff Wilson as like a running back too. I don't think he's a smash play. I don't think he's a lock to have a really nice game like he just did. He could easily have 17 carries for 50 yards, no receptions, no touchdowns, score 5 points. So a low floor option. And I don't think the ceiling is all that massive. It would have to come through touchdowns. Everyone has a high ceiling if it comes through touchdown. So I think he's a fine running back to play, not someone that is a must play, but certainly a quality option. And given the landscape of running back, I think he's someone that the majority of people who have Jeff Wilson are going to play him this week, especially because the 49ers are decent favorites. They should be winning in this game, and so it should be a positive game script as well. For the pass catchers, you're starting George Kittle, you're starting Deebo Samuel. That's not much to go over. And then I think you can play Ayuk as a flex this week. We've talked a lot about how Deebo plays more at the running back position when Mitchell is out because they don't want to give Jeff Wilson, 30 touches, right? So they'll mix in Deebo Samuel, and he's been phenomenal in that role. And when they're doing that, you have Brandon Ayuk as the number 1 wide receiver option, so he can have a good game. Also, Titans are a really solid matchup for opposing wide receivers in particular, so I think it's a good spot for Ayuk. I don't think you need to jam him into lineups, especially like if you just don't want to play someone on Thursday, you want to wait and see with some injury situations, can some guys get activated from COVID IR, but understand there's a little bit of risk there as well. What happens if you're like, okay, I don't want to play Brandon Ayuk on Thursday, and then you roll into your like Saturday, because remember there's some Saturday games this week as well, some Saturday and some Sunday games, and all of a sudden your guys are dropping like flies because they're not being activated from COVID IRs, they're not, or maybe they're placed on the COVID list on like Friday. So there is a little bit more risk this season in just saying, oh, I'm not going to play certain players, keep on the bench, and they're in like decent matchups, and then risking that your players will be out in the future. So it's not a huge risk because what are the odds that your exact player that you were going to play gets ruled out? But if you have to go to Brandon Ayuk, I understand the floor is relatively low, but it's a good matchup. He could have a decent game, and so I would still feel fine with it. It would only be as a flex play, though. That should kind of do it for the 49ers. For the Titans, I'm really hoping that A.J. Brown is going to be able to play. It seems like he will, so that's good for us. But verify that, obviously. If he does play him. I think even his first week back, like this is not a Julio situation. We talked about with Julio, they weren't just going to go to featuring him because he's Julio. He's going to get hurt. And what happens? He ends up getting hurt. I didn't think he'd get hurt immediately, but they knew as a team, you can't just, zone in or hone in on Julio, risk him getting injured because they wanted to kind of have, maybe Henry can come back, but they want A.J. Brown healthy. They want Julio healthy for the playoffs. It ended up that they didn't really target him much, but then he also still got hurt. A little bit different with Brown. Of course, they want to keep him healthy, but they are comfortable giving him, 8 to 10 really high quality targets as the focal point in the passing attack. And so I'm assuming that as soon as he's activated and playing, that you're playing him in your lineup because he's just so clearly the best wide receiver. And honestly, no one else. Like, even if A.J. Brown were out, I don't want to play any other pass catcher on the Titans. So for pass catchers, it's A.J. Brown or it's no one for me. For the running backs, Donta Foreman is still a quality option. Note that the floor is very low. He could go out there and play, 31 snaps like he did last week, only have 10 touches, 9 carries for 40 yards in reception, doesn't score. Like, he could have that type of game, especially if the 49ers get up. 49ers are able to successfully run the ball. We can see them have some of their vintage, 10 and 11-minute drives, and that's obviously not a good thing. Right, we obviously don't want that happening if we're playing the opposing team, especially one that is a game script dependent player like Foreman. So not in love with Foreman, but I think he's a quality play because even on the 31 snaps last week, he had 24 touches. So he's the guy they're giving the ball on early downs. He's going to be the guy they're using in the red zone. I just think he's going to end up in the rankings this week, which again will drop very likely later tonight. It'll probably be like 1, 2 a.m. tonight. If not, it'll be tomorrow, but I think I'll be able to get him up tonight. He'll probably be in that low end to flex range. And so if that's the range you're looking at for running back, I think you feel good about it. Because again, he played, I think it was 39% of the snaps, 31 total snaps, and they still give him ball time. So when he's on the field, they're going to give him the ball. He has a decent chance of scoring. So I think you can play him as a low end running back too. And the other ones aren't that great. I know Hilliard and McNichols, they're going to catch passes, but they're going to have such little work on the ground, such a little touchdown upside, not that many targets, especially now A.J. Brown's going to come back, so I would stick to just Foreman there. So that'll do it for the Thursday game. Let's go over all these different injury situations around the league. I already touched on the Bucs in the the waiver wires video, so I'm not going to go over that again, but Godwin, obviously, he tore his ACL. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. Leonard Fournette isn't going to be playing. And then I don't think Mike Evans will play, but he's week to week and he could return this week. I would just call him very, very unlikely to play this week. So you've got Antonio Brown returning. You've got Tyler Johnson will be an option. But obviously the Bucs are probably going to be less efficient on offense. But a lot is going to be focused on Antonio Brown, on Gronk, on just a rotation of the ground game, on Tyler Johnson. That's kind of how they're going to distribute. And then I bet you we see some ancillary players that weren't seeing the field as much all just kind of get dispersed into 1 to 2 targets. And so it's not Tyler Johnson comes in here and just becomes Chris Godwin, right? That's just not going to happen. So other situations that we'll talk about here. DJ Moore was a DNP on Wednesday with a hamstring injury. He had the injury last week. Obviously, it's not a good sign being DNP, but Wednesday is a really, really big rest day for all players. And so I'm assuming he plays this week, but just check his status on Thursday and Friday. Kareem Hunt is unlikely to play again this week, so that's a bump to Chubb, and we're still not playing to Ernest Johnson. Teddy Bridgewater out with the concussion, so Locke's going to start. That is bad news for the Broncos pass catchers, but not awful news, right? You're going to hear people talking about how bad Drew Lock is, and yes, Drew Lock has been very, very bad, but Teddy wasn't some god in the passing game, right? So it's more a bad, a downgrade for the team as a whole. But what could happen here is we see that they're awful for the first half, they fall behind, but then Locke is at least willing to push the ball downfield, and if they're in a negative game script, maybe one of their pass catchers has a long touchdown or something like that. So I think it is viable to go to their players. Jerry Jeudy, obviously the one you would prefer, but no one on the Broncos is a fantastic play with Drew Lock at quarterback. Harrison Butker, we don't usually talk about kickers, but he's out on the COVID list. So if he's your kicker, obviously just get a new one. I'm sure there's a fine option. You can check the kicker rankings on the site, which again, free. James Conner, DNP on Wednesday. Doesn't seem like he's going to miss any time, but verify that. And just like with everyone, I'm going to say verify that. We only have through Wednesday, right? This video is being recorded on Wednesday, goes out on Wednesday, right when I'm done finishing it. We get so much more information on Thursdays and Fridays. So yes, someone can DNP on Wednesday, but if they're like limited Thursday and then full on Friday, they're good to go, right? So we don't have that information right now, so just verify situations like this. Swift and Jamal Williams both returned to practice. That puts them on track to play this week. I've been talking the past 2 weeks about how they are not going to rush DeAndre Swift back. It makes absolutely no sense for them to do that. I wouldn't have been shocked if they just held both of them out the entire season. There is no reason for them to bring these running backs back. Craig Reynolds has been fine. They don't need to risk further injury. They're not even really trying to win games, and so it doesn't make sense to bring them back. But if these guys are going to practice, the guys are going to play, it basically just goes back to what it was before. You're playing Swift. You're not playing anyone else. Lamar Jackson, still day-to-day. They basically didn't give us any sort of information today on that. I am guessing that this will be the week he's able to return, but just keep like hanging on to Huntley if you added him, obviously, when Lamar was out, and just hold, basically, because if Lamar stays out, you play Huntley. If Lamar is back, you drop Huntley, and you just play Lamar. It's that simple. Michael Carter was placed on the COVID list, but the good news is that it was the defensive back, so I got a little upset when I saw that happen. It is not the running back for the Jets. It is their defensive back. 2 Michael Carters in the Jets, so if anyone happened to see that news, the running back, Michael Carter, is still fine. At least right now, they're having an outbreak on the team. Emmanuel Sanders was limited on Wednesday. That puts him on a better trajectory this week of playing. Not confirmed yet, though, so see Thursday, see Friday. I think Gabriel Davis is better. Gabriel Davis has performed better when he's been able to see the field. But obviously, if Emmanuel Sanders does come back, you can't go back to playing Gabriel Davis. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is on the COVID IR. Probably doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't just open up a million targets for anyone. It just adds targets to the running backs, to Devonta Adams. But you could look at Allen Lazard in deeper formats. They like having him on the field for blocking, and so if he's going to be out there pretty much every play now, he's going to be a decent option for you. But again, it really just condenses around Jones, Dillon, and Adams. David Johnson's hurt. Severity is unknown, but we're not starting Texans running back, so that is fairly irrelevant. Carlos Hyde was placed on the IR with a concussion. That means we're going to have James Robinson as a feature back for the rest of the season, and it is likely that he ends up being ranked as a running back 1 every week moving forward. So hopefully he can have a really nice end to the year. The Chiefs have a massive COVID outbreak, so the status of everyone's in question, even players who are not on the COVID list right now, could be come Sunday. But this is really big news for Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, because as of right now, they are both not going to play this week. They can test off of the COVID list come Sunday. Hopefully they're able to do that, because that's going to have a massive impact on everyone's team. But if they can't, you need to have a backup plan. I don't think you're looking to your backup plan in their backup wide receivers. I think it would be your bench wide receivers that would come into your starting lineup. But you can add Hardman, you can add Byron Pringle. Guessing right now, again, the rankings will drop. You can go off of that, and you can go off of I'm probably going to project them in until we get a little bit more news. But I honestly don't know what's going to end up happening. I'm going to read more today. I'll read more tomorrow and Friday and stuff like that. My guess, though, if both these guys are out, is that Byron Pringle would be the top option, because he's more of a prototypical going to command targets, whereas Mecole needs schemed targets, and it's they're not going to scheme him a million targets. But I think they would both be very, very close in the rankings, and I think you could go out, add one of them, start them ahead of Tyreek Hill if Tyreek Hill misses and you just really need someone. But I would still just prefer you have a better option on your bench. Darren Waller listed as questionable. Don't have any real information if he's going to play this week. He's been out for a while, but if he's able to come back, play this week, practice reports will be really nice. I think you're starting him in his first week back. I highly doubt they hold him out or they bring him back from holding him out if he's not just good to go, right? If he's only 60%, they're not playing him, right? They should know they're not making the playoffs. They're not going to rush him back and risk a further injury. And so I think once he returns, unless we get some sort of indication that they're only going to play him 20 snaps, I think you play him. It's a downgrade to Hunter Renfrow, but not a huge one. Hunter Renfrow is still clearly one of their top options, and so I think once Waller's back, you're still playing Renfrow, and you're also playing Waller. Watch the status of Austin Ekeler. I don't understand this situation at all. They said he's going on the COVID list, and then he didn't, but he's not practicing, so I don't really know what's going to end up happening here. I'm sure that we're going to know more today and tomorrow, but start thinking of a backup plan in case Eckler's out. And Justin Jackson would be the running back I would want to be going after if I had Austin Ekeler. Thielen's listed as questionable. He's been out for a while with a high ankle sprain. Of course, everyone who has a high ankle sprain is going to miss a good amount of time. He could play this week, but again, watch Thursday and Friday. That's going to tell us a lot more information than we have right now. Damian Harris was seen at practice Wednesday, but Stevenson wasn't. Now, I think both are going to end up playing this week, but it's not worth guessing, right? If one of them is out, it is still a brutal matchup against Buffalo. Obviously, we saw last time these two teams played, it was that wild, wind game where it's just you just couldn't throw the ball at all. I think Mac Jones hit 2 of 3 passes completed. He threw 3 pass attempts, and so that's not going to happen again. And really, the only success the Patriots had on the ground game was a few big runs, because it was just they were just stacking the box every play. So kind of have to just throw that game out. Buffalo's still a quality run defense, but if you only have Stevenson playing or you only have Harris playing, you're probably going to want to start them, even with you seeing the results from last week. And Stevenson wasn't really there. It'd still be enough of a projection where you're probably playing one of them if it's only that one healthy. If both are healthy, more lower end plays, but you could still go there, and you'd likely lean Harris. But again, we just got to know how healthy is Harris. We don't know at this point. He was seen at practice, but we don't know really to what extent yet. So Thursday and Friday are going to tell us a lot. Sterling Shepard was placed on the IR, of course, with his long-term injury, while Tony, he's probably not going to play. I don't believe they've ruled him out yet. But he's working off the COVID IR, and he's also got injuries. It is very unlikely he's going to play this week, so they won't have Shepard. They won't have Tony. It makes Galladay more appealing, but let's be honest, you're not going to a Giants wide receiver in the semifinals. J.D. McKissic was placed on the IR with concussion, so rest of the season we are going to have Gibson as a still low floor, but very high ceiling play. If there's a week where he's doing really well and doesn't happen to fumble, he's going to get targets, he's going to get red zone work, and so he can have games where he has 6 receptions, multiple scores, over 100 total yards. I think you're just playing him every week moving forward, though that's why the rankings are free. Again, if you're in the fantasy playoffs right now, you want to just check the rankings, check the projections. They're free, thefantasyfootballadvice.com, and that'll do it for this one. Also, if you're not in the fantasy playoffs, don't check the rankings. You can check out the sports betting pages. I've got the pick 'em up. I've got money line and spreads up. We were 12-4 against the spread last week, 13-3 money line, a massively positive EV week. It has been industry leading. We're ranked first and second among money line and against the spread over the entire season, just crushing those picks. And they're free. Why would you not just look at them, right? Also, I'm not 100% sure on the schedule this week. So usually we have the running back video on Thursday, wide receiver video on Friday. I find it unlikely to believe that I'm going to be able to record on Thursday. I've been traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast, back to the East Coast this week. And we've had some COVID situations with the family. It's been an absolute mess. So I don't think I'll be able to record on Thursday, but I should be good to go on Friday because I'll be back on the East Coast on Friday. And so I'm just going to do a massive video. Obviously, you don't need the video if you want to just look at the rankings and look how they change. But I'm going to do that same setup as last time. I'm just going to scroll through the rankings. We're going to talk about each game, talk about the players that will be starting and sitting while looking at the exact rankings of the site. And so if you want to just follow along in that video, you can do so. But that's probably going to go out on Friday, so probably no video on Thursday. So that'll do it for this one. Hope you all did enjoy. If you did, how about hitting that like button? And how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? Thanks for watching.